Krueger Show, Tuesday night. Working hard today, or hardly working. One of the other. Warriors, Pelicans going on the tube right now, fourth quarter, 1 point game, but we are talking Niners. We got Eric Crocker in the house. I've been on the Locked On 49ers show with Crocker and Peacock, but this is the first time we'd had Eric on this show, and we welcome him to the Krueger Show. Eric, how are you, man? Good to see you.
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on. I'll be a lot better if the Warriors lose. I know the fans don't want to hear that. They just took the lead, but go Lakers.
Now, Rob Pelinka has had just an amazing year as a general manager. I did not think that the Lakers were anything on opening night. And then all of a sudden, Pelinka starts making trades. Here comes Rui Hachimura, Mo Bamba, Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt. It's like every player I wanted the Warriors to get, the Lakers actually got. And now here we are at the doorstep of the playoffs, and the Lakers are potentially going to be in, and maybe even not have to play in the play-in tournament. Who knows? They'll probably have to get in the play-in. But The Lakers right now are the 9 seed. What do you think? Some of the people think, Croc, that the Lakers, if they get in, could win it all. What do you think?
I think that's a very tall task, but I do like that you mentioned a lot of players that they kind of recently acquired, especially after the trade or right before the trade deadline. This essentially is a different team. And now the tough dynamic, because everybody started to kind of get in the groove. You got Reeves, he's kind of like growing into his role. And then you throw LeBron James back in the mix, who hasn't been there for almost a month. And now all of a sudden you have to start that whole like camaraderie and kind of the rotations. You have to start all of that over. So they're trying to figure it out. Hopefully they can figure it out sooner than later. I think LeBron, he kind of went down at the wrong time. But if they can get it together, again, it's a definitely a much different team than it was to start the season.
All right, so you do the show with Peacock, and you talk a lot of Niners, but you played for the Jets, but you grew up in Northern California. Did you grow up a Niner fan? Are you a Niner fan through and through, or are you just a NorCal guy that now is here talking Niners? What's the origins of your Niner fandom?
Oh, man, diehard 49er fan. We try to remove that part on the show on Locked On 49ers. Peacock and I are both 49er fans, but, just for content purposes, I've been able to really separate my personal feelings. Now, if you follow me on social media and the 49ers are playing, sometimes I'll get a little excited and you're like, yeah, he's clearly a 49er fan. But when we're giving our analysis, we remove all of the fandom for the most part and try to come from I bring more of, the former athlete, that kind of perspective, maybe what the coaches are thinking. We try to break things down, all the, the things that the 49ers kind of put out there and always giving you content. But I am a 49er fan, man. When I was young, a lot of people ask me how am I a Laker fan? I asked my uncle, like, man, what's your favorite basketball team? He was like, Lakers. I'm like, all right, I'm a Laker fan. And my mom, I asked her, I'm like, Mom, what's your favorite football team? She said 49ers. I said, all right, I'm a 49er fan. So I've been a 49er fan as long as I can remember. Growing up in Stockton, it was real cool because you had the 49ers come through training camp out there in Stockton. Middle school, I used to hop on the bus, take it down to UOP, man, and watch the 49ers. With Terrell Owens, right. Steve Young, Jerry Rice, all those guys. So that was really cool, part of my childhood.
I forgot that the Niners trained in Stockton there for a number of years. Max says, love Croc, but this Warriors hate is out of control.
Hey, okay, listen. To be honest, I never cared about the Warriors like that. Like, I always actually like showed love. They're a California team. They were pretty bad most of my like kind of childhood and really kind of adulthood as well. So I never really cared. I thought the We Believe or whatever with Baron Davis and those guys, like I was really excited for them and Matt Barnes. My hatred towards the Warriors never started until last year in the playoffs, where the fans, I would say like just little things like, hey man, like just analysis, right? I'd see Curry not get a call, and it's like, well, he's trying to like sell the foul more than make the shot, and they would kill me. Warrior fans would kill me, and that's when it started. So up until that point, I never had any hatred towards the Warriors. Didn't really care, but now it's like, yeah, it's kind of beef. I'm watching right now, and I hope they lose.
97-94 Golden State, 8.5 to play, but and this is Warriors got to have this one. Warriors are not playing well,
yeah.
And they're trying to get into the playoffs, and they'll be in, but I'm hoping they can avoid the play-in and maybe be the 6th seed. I don't know how it's going to go for them. Monahan here says, Michael Monahan says, Larry was on fire on Vicious show, getting fired up for this one. All right, let's get into the story of the day. Obviously, John Lynch spoke yesterday in Arizona at the owners' meeting. Today, Kyle Shanahan spoke. Give me your takeaway, Croc. I mean, they both talked a lot about the quarterbacks. You know, a lot of people associate me with being rah Brock Purdy just because I went to minicamp and I'm like, that guy can play, and I was kind of adamant about it, and so I get this. Oh, you're Brock. You called Brock Purdy early, so you're rah Purdy. I actually loved the pick of Trey Lance at the time, and I'm somewhat frustrated that they haven't been able to kind of bring him along the right way. But the last couple days, to me, it kind of confirms what I really thought, which is that I think the Niners are going to trade Trey, and it just seems like that's what they're setting us up for. But that's just my read on it. So I haven't talked.
Real quick, I want to ask you. I know you're interviewing me. I'm on here with you, but you just mentioned bringing Trey Lance along the right way. What do you think for him the right way would have been to develop him into whatever it is that they need him to be?
Well, I mean, I wanted to see them let Trey scramble and not have designed quarterback runs. Let's go back to the Arizona game, Croc. There was the 16 runs in that game. In that game, I think I forget if it was 9 designed and 7 scrambles or the opposite. But on the scrambles, he averaged like 13 yards a scramble and only took a hit on like a third of them. But on the design quarterback runs, he averaged 3.2 yards per carry and took a hit every single time. And I don't like when they call him a dual threat quarterback. I don't look at him as Michael Vick. I don't look at him as Lamar Jackson. He's not that kind of runner. He's not that dynamic of a runner. I actually think the thing that I liked the most about him coming out of North Dakota State was his footwork and ball handling as a quarterback in the play action game from under center. I thought it was like really advanced for a rookie quarterback. I really did. But we haven't seen them use him the way they've used Purdy and the way they've used Jimmy. They can't even call him a quarterback. They have to call him a dual threat quarterback, and dropping him 3 yards deep with no lead blocker and saying, become Marcus Allen and pick and slide and find a hole with no lead blocker sucks. I hate that game plan. I ripped Shanahan to death over that Arizona game plan. I thought it was horrendous. He disappeared. The next game against Houston, Croc, it was a totally different game plan. Yeah. I liked the way they utilized him there, and I thought Trey in the second half of that game kind of demonstrated the potential that he does have with the arm strength and the mobility within the pocket to extend plays. But he's just really tough to evaluate because we haven't gotten enough of him. But in a nutshell, I thought they treated him different than the other quarterbacks instead of just letting him use his natural athleticism to scramble and extend plays.
And the interesting thing, because we saw that, right? And I think the biggest question was when you watch him against Arizona, was that where he is in his development, where they feel like they have to run this type of offense, or is this just what they kind of want to do with him? And maybe they overplayed their hand thinking he was maybe a more explosive runner than what he truly is. But if you go back to the preseason, even from his rookie year, I mean, look at his first couple of throws. Like, they're from under center, play action, big throw down the field, touchdown to Trent Sherfield. His very first throw was like a play action. He dropped back, and it was those deep comebacks. He bypassed it, rolled out to the right, and threw a dart to Brandon Ayuk where he dropped it. So it was like, it almost felt like early on there was more trust in him, and they were going to build a game plan around that. And then once the season came and he had to start, it's like, oh, well, we just want to try to get by with this. And maybe that's where they felt like he was. They see him more in practice than any of us. But then you look at the Texans game, and they went back to a little bit more of a traditional under center a little bit more. And then I thought he did play well. And I thought it was something to really build off of. So it has been interesting seeing his usage in the sense of the runs and the passes, when I've seen a lot of good from him as a passer. Obviously, there's bad as well. There's a lot of missed throws. I think he stopped missing as bad. Kind of as things went on, right? You look at the Arizona Cardinals game. There was some. Or go back a little bit further. Seattle Seahawks game. There was some really bad misses in that game where he was, I don't know if he was just too amped up or nervous, whatever it was, but the ball didn't come out of his hands very well. Really bad misses in that game. And then you fast forward to the Arizona game. Some more misses, but maybe not quite as bad. Made some plays with his arm. Then the Texans game, it was much more of what you wanted to see him be consistent at. Then the next time you see him against Green Bay, completes 4 out of 5 passes. Not the most accurate passes, but that explosive 75-yard touchdown that you want to see. And then week 1, where I thought he threw the ball well outside of a miss to a tight end, and then the monsoon hit, then he definitely didn't throw well in that. Then he came out and threw the ball well for a couple passes against Seattle and got hurt. So it's been kind of weird. I think ultimately what it comes down to and what we're learning, and it's probably what we all have known, is they've just seen more of Brock Purdy. And I think that's really what it comes down to. So there's still this unknown with Trey Lance and what he will be. There's clearly the upside and there's clearly the ability. But hey, forget all that right now with Brock Purdy. We know we have this, right? We know we have this level of play that won 7 or 8 games in a row and maybe would have won a couple more if not for him ruining his elbow, getting hit in the pocket. So I think they're going with more of what they feel comfortable with. I think that's how Kyle Shanahan has really coached. If you look at his handling of young players, and even saying guys like Brandon Ayuk wouldn't have played his rookie year if he would have had healthy veteran receivers. He just doesn't like the unknown with guys, and he wants you to do things a specific way. Brock Purdy does that right now, and I think you can hear that in Kyle Shanahan's voice when he talks about it.
Let's talk about Trey's flaws because I'm really glad to have you on the show because I know that you play corner in the league, and I think you're almost an ideal guy to talk to about this. It almost is like they're telling us without telling us that Brock can't or that Trey can't do it. That there's some flaw to his game that they're afraid of exposing by playing him. But the one thing I wanted to ask you, as a corner, I used to be a quality control guy. So I've put together game plans, and that's where I'm coming at it. But as a player, I know your process as well. And you guys watch a lot of cut up films. And that's the kind of the preparation that anybody will go through. You watch your cut ups and you're studying your opponent. And I talked to Charvarius Ward extensively about that this year. I'm like, do you spend a lot of time studying the receiver's nuances and tendencies, or do you like to study the quarterback? What's more important if you could only study one? And he was like, for me, it's definitely the quarterback. I want to know about the quarterback, but he studies both. The question I have for you is, do you see anything, Eric, with Trey's from when he takes the ball from center to when he identifies he wants to throw it to the ball coming out of his hand? Is there any elongated process there that you think enables NFL caliber corners to break on his passes? Because that's the one thing about his release. A lot of quarterbacks nobody's just keeps the hand all the way back and just goes forward. You're going to have some little circle, right? But if your circle has a gigantic hitch in it and you take it from here all the way back, you as a corner are watching the cut-ups and you're identifying the beginning of the motion. And so if the motion begins too soon and it goes too long from here to release, that's all the time that you have as a corner to break on that football. Do you see anything about Trey's release that says NFL corners can pick him, can break on his ball because it's a little too elongated, or does it not stand out to you?
I think it's a little overplayed, but only because he has a strong arm. And so and I see someone in the chat mention Tim Tebow. If Trey Lance had like that elongated release and then the ball still doesn't pop out of his hand, then it would be a huge issue. And especially sitting off in the zone coverage, forcing him to throw into tighter windows, you jump that stuff and pick those things off left and right. But when you do have that kind of elongated release, it's a little bit longer. Maybe he can quicken up his hands a little bit, and I think they try to work on that, getting that front foot up and down quicker. That should quicken up the hands. But he has a really strong arm, especially on those intermediate passes. And that difference right there is going to help to where if I am a defensive back, even if he's slightly late, maybe I can still try to get a jump on it, but he has the velocity on the throws to still squeeze it in there. And that can get you in some trouble, right? You look at guys like Josh Allen. Josh Allen throws a lot of, when you look at some of his picks, it's like, how did he throw that pick? What was he thinking? Well, he's thinking, I got this big old arm. I can get this ball in here regardless whether you know it's coming or not. I think with Trey Lance, obviously he's not thinking that far ahead, but still having that powerful arm can make it to where like it's the difference between me being able to see him where he's throwing it, but then the ball taking a shorter time to get to the target.
I think we're looking at that. We have the same mic. I'm looking at your mic. I'm like, man, I got that exact same mic sitting right here. What do you think was the origin of the draft choice of Trey? Because I was talking to Vish about this earlier today. We're in agreement that the 49ers, it always seemed weird that they would trade up not for a player, but for a draft position. But I really think that, Eric, they weren't committed to Trey, that they were committed to having a rookie quarterback, to having a quarterback on a rookie deal, that was the true commitment because of the Bosa deal and all the talent. And they penned it out, I'm sure. This is what our roster looks like with a $25 million quarterback or more. Here's what it looks like with a quarterback on a rookie deal. I really think they were committed to having that quarterback on the rookie deal, but I don't necessarily think they were committed to Trey, and I think we're seeing it now. What do you think?
I actually think that they were committed to upgrading at the quarterback position. And I think it started with looking at guys like Matthew Stafford. And they're trying to figure out, how do we get Matthew Stafford on the 49ers? What does that look like with his draft capital and whatnot? And then, boom, Rams beat them to the punch. So it's like, all right, let's go to plan B. All right, who is our plan B? Okay, man, maybe it's Deshaun Watson. And then all the Deshaun Watson weird stuff started coming out, right? Because he wanted to trade. That was very clear throughout that year. Like, he wanted to be traded. But then all the weird stuff came out, and now all of a sudden, well, we can't trade for that guy. All right, but dang, we really want to upgrade this position. How do we do it now? Well, plan A, plan B, those things are out the window now between Stafford and Watson. I guess the only way now is, man, maybe one of these young guys, and we can try to groom them. And we can find a guy that we feel like kind of gives us that upside and that ability, but fits in this offense. And I think once they did that, and they've talked about how they really liked Mac Jones and they liked Trey Lance. And I think that people are right to say maybe Mac was the leader at first in that. But then probably when you get to know Trey Lance, because that's a big part of it. There's a lot of guys in the NFL, and I've been in these locker rooms where you see these guys that, man, they're so talented, but once you meet them and you start to learn who they are and their work ethic and things like that, it's like, I'm not sure I like this guy. Then you see like their career never really truly pan out or work out, right? A lot of it has to do with work ethic and how they carry themselves. When you meet Trey Lance, everyone that you heard from throughout that process just talked about how A+ character he had, how smart he was. So then when you look at the traits and things like that, you're like, man, this is something that we can truly work with. I think maybe the thing that they maybe overplayed a little bit was the type of development that he truly needed. And maybe it is such a unique situation. So you pick between him and Mac Jones and you're like, all right, well, we're going to go with the guy with the more upside. But then what the guy needed with the more upside with where your team was, I don't think those things matched up very well. And I think that's what we're seeing right now. But as far as the process goes, I think they really did, as they've said, really liked Mac Jones, and I understand why. I identify Mac Jones as a Kyle Shanahan type quarterback, right? When we think of what Kyle wants, which essentially is what Brock Purdy's doing right now, like he wants that type of guy. He's going to do what he's supposed to do. He's going to be smart, get the ball out of his hands, and put the ball in position for some of his players to make run after catch opportunities, which 49ers did that with he did that with Matt Schaub. He did that with Matt Ryan. We saw him do it with Jimmy Garoppolo. And I think Brock Purdy is in line with that as well, where he knows exactly what he's going to do, and they just kind of think on the same page.
Who did you want when they traded up in the draft for Trey Lance? and you heard about the trade, we had multiple
Yeah.
months of speculation. Who did you want them to trade? Or who did you want them to draft? Did you have a guy, or was it like, hey, I'm not really strong on Fields or strong on Trey or strong on Mac. I see what they're doing. Did you come out strong on I want a particular quarterback, or did you kind of like, hey, you know what? I'd be open with a number of guys.
It was kind of tough because I just felt like, and off of just the numbers, things you saw, Justin Fields was the most talented quarterback in that class to me. I think there was something that they didn't care for with how long he held onto the ball, and I don't think that
Took a
meshes
lot of
well.
sacks at Ohio State. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of sacks for a team that has a good offensive line. For him to take the sacks that he did, and Kyle's offense, you just can't do that, right? Like you got to hit that back step, and he really wants that ball to get out more times than not. And if you're not doing that, then you have a problem. So once you start to identify again who the players are, their work ethics, things like that, I was all in on Trey Lance more than any other quarterback in this class, and I tweeted that out because to me the mental makeup it was all there. So you got the attributes, right? Like the things that you want from the attributes, the arm, the ability to make all the throws. Yes, the accuracy could be better, but just okay. Well, the things that he needs to improve on, does he have the work ethic and the mindset to improve on those things? And once I identified that as a yes, and you hear everything that people are saying, and then how he was in middle school waking his dad up to work out at 5 a.m. before school. You hear Ian Rappaport and his meeting with him when they were out in LA, and you just hear all these different things about his maturity. It's like that's the guy, and there's a lot of ability. You just okay, how we're gonna get this upside of him, and then how he started with the 49ers. It sounded like he was killing it in training camp, right away, and then it kind of slowed down a little bit. But I think ultimately, like you said, starting off, I think it's even a little bit deeper than that with the play calling. I think more so of just what he needed, right, for a guy at one year at the FCS level, starting experience, only 17 games or 18 games they started, never lost, didn't really get to go through a lot of different adversity during that time, had to deal with the whole COVID situation, and then transitioned to the NFL from there. It was a tough situation that I thought he was just going to have to play through. And if you allowed him to play through it because of who he is as a person, I thought he'd figure it out. But obviously it's not as simple as that we've seen now. So that was a guy who I was all in on more so than any other quarterback because of who he is. I've seen the guys in the locker room who are very talented, they have all this college production, but then, man, they don't have the right mindset. I thought he had the right mindset, so I was all in on Trey Lance.
We're in lockstep. I was too. I mean, I absolutely was. And I, my whole thing was he checked all the boxes. He had it here. He had it here. He had it here. You know what I mean? He had the arm. He's got the heart. He's got the mind. His dad. I scouted his dad when I was working for the Sacramento Gold Miners, and he was a player for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, the one-word Roughriders, who played in Regina. And I remember his dad, Carlton Saunders, was a defensive back who played in the Canadian League in the mid 90s. So to me, that told me football is the family business and it's important to him. And it's like, sometimes you just don't know how important a sport is to a player. Right. But once I knew that, hey, you know what? Football was important to him and I knew he had all the attributes, I was all in on Trey Lance. I don't like the way they've utilized Trey Lance. I don't like the way they've brought him along. And I'll tell you right now, I don't like what I'm necessarily hearing from John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. I get the sense, Croc, that they're going to trade him. Now, I know there's cap ramifications, but it just seems like they're all in on Brock Purdy. They just brought in Sam Darnold. The things that Lynch has said, Trey needs to play, and that's the challenge because we got a team that's ready to go. That was what he said at the Combine. And it's like the implication was clear. It's like the implication is that we got a team that's ready to win and Trey's not ready to play. He needs development. And then Lynch said yesterday, hey, we like Trey on our roster right now. I mean, come on. I mean, if you said that to your girlfriend, hey, I like dating you right now. I mean, you're not getting any love, man. I mean, ever again, she's just going to get all pissed off because the implication is that you're going to love somebody else soon. And that's my takeaway. And then listening to Shanahan today, They're going to split reps. So now Brock Purdy is your number one guy, and Lance and Darnold are going to split reps to be the number two guy. What? And then you believed that Trey Lance was good enough. He was going to have a great year last year, except for the injury. It doesn't add up. It's like, if he was going to have a great year last year, except for the injury, then why is he splitting reps coming up this summer with Sam Darnold, who's literally been statistically like the worst quarterback in the NFL? So what's your read on what we're hearing from Kyle, from John? What's your read on how they're going to deal with Lance going forward? Are they going to give him that opportunity, and they're just kind of trying to motivate him? Or do you think that, like I think that they're going to trade him during the draft?
I think that definitely is a possibility. You and I know the business aspect of the NFL, right? And it's all about right now. And for them, it's really hard for them to figure, look into the future on what Trey Lance can be, because again, like you said, this team is ready. Then once Brock goes out there and wins those games, it almost makes it impossible to go through any ups and downs with Trey Lance unless you just really have to. I can see a scenario where they kind of let it play out to where he does get that opportunity. And that could be, hey man, let's have Brock Purdy start off on PUP list or IR, something where he, misses like the first 4 games. And that can kind of be your trial period for Trey Lance and just see kind of what he does with it, because you did invest a lot in it. Now, within investing a lot in it, you still went to, back-to-back NFC championship games. So maybe they don't care so much about what they had to give up during that time. But he is a guy with a lot of talent. And ultimately, I think if I'm Trey Lance, and I had said this, once you start hearing some of the things and kind of how things are going to play out, like, can you guys please trade me? Now, Trey's not going to do that. Kyle has talked about how, oh man, he's made up. He's a smart guy. He understands the situation. He knows he has to, bring his A game because of how well Purdy played, et cetera. And Trey has said those same things. But ultimately, I don't think that there's much Trey Lance can do because Purdy did it in games, right? So it's like, man, he can go. Trey can go out there and do well in OTAs. He can go out there in training camp and look solid. But ultimately, it's not going to matter because that's not going to outweigh what Purdy did during the season, as it shouldn't. It shouldn't outweigh that. But because it's not, you have a guy who ultimately, like Kyle has been saying, and we've all been saying, he just needs to play, and he's not going to get that opportunity here. So why would you hold on to him? I mean, even if you can kind of salvage the situation by getting a 3rd-round pick for him, even if that, maybe it's a 4th-round pick, whatever it is, hey, man, let's move him. Let's put him in a situation that's better for him. Let's get something in return for us. And now we don't have any quarterback drama or controversy, or even if Brock Purdy comes back from his injury, starts off a little slow, you don't have people clamoring at the thoughts of bringing in Trey Lance. It's just like, all right, this is just Purdy's team. So I think to really kind of solidify it as Purdy's team, they should trade Trey Lance as well. And I think that would be good for both parties.
Yeah. Oh, we're in lockstep on this one. NorCal has a good one here. He says, let's see if I can call it up. There we go. He says, have we seen Purdy's ceiling? Croc, what's your evaluation of Purdy? I mean, you're a former NFL corner. You look at these guys. You have a deeper knowledge of what you need to see from the quarterback, and for that quarterback to be successful. And you probably see flaws in guys that we don't see because your career has been studying these guys. What do you think of Brock Purdy as a player?
That's a good question. I think some of the same things that y'all see, right? I think that, I try to think of first, what does he do that would like stress me as a defensive back? I think his ability to make plays off script, be able to kind of run around. He's not fast by any means, but he's definitely twitched up and can make guys miss and just extend plays. If he's extending plays, I have to cover longer. So I think right there, that's something that can definitely be a big stressor on a defensive back. Now, where I think he has to be a little more perfect, I don't even know if that's the word for it, but because Kyle does a good job of kind of putting him in advantageous situations, but he does not have a strong arm. So when we talk about, getting a jump on certain things, I feel like, man, I'm going to kind of squat on some routes here and see if he's going to throw me one. If he tries to force one into a tight window but doesn't have the velocity to really get it from point A to point B as quick as possible, maybe there's a chance for me to get my hands on this. And we saw that, right? I mean, how many passes did we see? Who had the pick that was either returned for a pick six but it got called back against Tampa Bay? Maybe they called holding like away from the ball. I think it was Tampa.
Yeah, it was Tampa. Was it? I want to say Keanu Neal, but no, Keanu Neal had the big blow up hit on him at the very start of the game. Was it Murphy Bunting? Maybe.
It maybe was. It was like in the slot. There was a pick, but he had that one. The guy actually caught it. There were a few other ones where he was either late, throwing across the field, throwing across his body, trying to make certain throws where he doesn't necessarily have the arm strength to make those type of throws. And I think he is someone that if he isn't playing with timing and rhythm, he has to play off script, but then stay within himself as a thrower. And if he doesn't do that and tries to kind of do a little bit more, like I call him like mini Mahomes, right? He moves around like Mahomes and is crafty like Mahomes, but he doesn't have the arm of Mahomes. So, he starts throwing some of these passes where he doesn't quite have the arm to do so. He might be in trouble. Now, have we seen his ceiling? I don't think so, because even with not having the biggest of arm, and again, a lot of people think that not having a big arm means throwing the ball 70 yards down the field. No, that's not even what I think about when I think of having a big arm.
You're thinking about the deep.
It's that velocity
the wide
on
hash.
the intermediate throw. Yeah, there was a pass he threw to Brandon Ayuk, and Ayuk was in the slot, and it was like a quick little out route, and he hung that out route inside. It's like you can't miss there with not having a strong arm. And luckily, Ayuk kind of fought back to the ball and like caught it, pinned against him. But on a route that was that short, it's like you want to see that ball get there and be on that outside shoulder. So I think those are definitely things that he can kind of continue to work on, just understanding what throws he can and can't make with some of his limitations. It's not going to be throwing – anybody can throw a ball 50 yards down the field. It's point A to point B on the shorter to intermediate throws that guys are really going to start jumping in a minute. So that's what I would be looking out for this year. How does he work around that? And not even so much him. How does Kyle work around it? Because you talked about earlier Travarius Ward. And what is he looking at? He's like, I studied the quarterbacks, I have to study receivers, and that's cool. But ultimately, you got to study that coordinator. The coordinator is the one that's going to tell you what he likes to do in certain situations, certain down and distances. They always go back to who they are as a coordinator and what their bread and butter is as play calls and certain how they line up, formations, things like that can kind of tip it off and give it away. So Kyle's going to have to figure out how to kind of game plan around some of the deficiencies that Purdy has from an arm talent perspective, which I think he did a great job of last year, and he just has to continue to do it this year.
How about Darnold? Do you got a thought on Darnold? Do you like Darnold? Do you think – he played his best 6-game stretch at the end of last year. Clearly the Niners feel like they're catching lightning in a bottle. He went 4-2. He did hit the guys underneath, and he had some decent run after the catch numbers in those last 6 games. What was your opinion of Darnold coming out of SC, and what's your opinion of him today?
Oh man, I don't think you could have watched the game against Penn State and been like, man, this guy's a gamer, right? Like you watched that USC, Penn State, that was from Sam Darnold's redshirt freshman year, and really what he did down the stretch that year because he replaced another quarterback. He came in and just rattling off wins, and you see some of his receivers take off, Juju Smith-Schuster, and then again, big-time throws. So he has special talent, and Kyle Shanahan alluded to that earlier today when he was talking as well. But you get to the NFL, and when you get put in these situations that aren't great, he was playing for the Jets. It just was not a good team. And his first ever NFL throw, he rolls out, he tried to throw across his body to the other side of the field, pick 6, first ever NFL throw. And I think from that moment on, he said it best, man, I'm just seeing ghosts out there. And I think everything was just sped up so fast for him, sped up so fast. And he never had an opportunity for him to really slow down that internal time clock to where he just got comfortable in an offense and let his talent kind of take over. And we could see it in kind of spurts, the ability that he has, where there's off-platform throws. We saw him make against the 49ers. I think it was Braxton Berrios that caught it on a kind of an extended play against the Killer Witherspoon. Great throw, rolling left, dropping out arm slot, throwing a dart. He has ability to make every throw. but the consistency is not there. And I think a lot of it is because of a sped up internal time clock. So can he slow that down as a backup? Because it was so hit and miss, and that's why he lost so many games, but he also won a decent amount of games as well. And he was drafted number 3 overall for a reason. I really liked him coming out of USC. I thought he was probably going to be the better quarterback in that class. Obviously, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson had other plans and said, nah, dude, you're way wrong. But still, you put him in a good situation, which I think the 49ers are. I think that gives him the best chance to be successful with the talent and ability that he has.
You played for the Jets, so you understand New York. Zach Wilson made a mistake. He went to the press conference. They said, "Hey, he played terribly?" And they said, "Hey, were you part of the reason?" And he's like, "No, I didn't think so." He was trying to diffuse any criticism he misread the room. He just misread the room. He made the wrong call, and he tried to keep everybody at an arm's distance and give him the Heisman. And instead, it backfired. He lost the locker room. The players are wearing the backup quarterback's T-shirt. He to the point now where I think he needs a change of scenery. I think he can no longer operate there. We'll see. What was your thought of him, and what did you think when he did that? When he lost the room, when he didn't take accountability in front of the media, when he tried to kind of say, "Hey, it wasn't on me," because he figured if I admit blame here, I'm going to get an avalanche of criticism, so I'm not going to admit blame, and it backfired. Are you a Zach Wilson fan of the way he played at BYU? Obviously he's played horribly with the Jets. I still believe in him, and I think he's going to go somewhere else and have another chapter. Where are you with Zach Wilson?
First, let's start with the comments in the press conference, because that was wild. I had never heard that, especially something that was just such a blatant lie. Like, bro, you guys could not move the ball, could not score. I think they said they had 3 yards in the second half. It was something wild like that, where the offense was non-existent. And they asked him, "Hey, do you think you let the defense down?" And he said, "No, not at all." How did you not let the defense down at all when they didn't give up any points and your offense just did absolutely nothing? I mean, nothing, literally nothing. Did not move the ball, did not get a first down in the second half. You're not moving the ball past midfield. I mean, it was terrible. And he took no accountability for it. And I think that spoke volumes to the media, especially in New York, where they will eat you up, and especially his teammates. And I think from that point, because you went from his comments of saying, nah, offense was cool, right, when they clearly weren't. And then you go to Wilson, the receiver, Garrett Wilson, who's a rookie. He's not the quarterback. He's not the leader, but he's the one taking the most accountability for it. Saying, "Hey, we're better than this. I don't know why we played like that. We played poor. We got to fix this, etc." It's like, man, those are things we need to be hearing from the quarterback. And he took zero accountability. I think from that moment, I think people knew that kind of the writing was on the wall with how his teammates were probably going to feel about him from that moment on, and how that fan base. And I know how they can get there. I remember, I was a rookie with Geno Smith. And I remember the stress that Geno was under, and not even getting to the season yet. I mean, we were just OTAs and training camp, and I just remember it wasn't training camp yet. It wasn't training camp yet because we were in the hotel. So this is OTAs, and I remember Geno. We're playing Madden in his room, in his hotel room, and then he's just drinking Ciroc or something like that. And I'm thinking hey, dude, it's the middle of the day. It's just me and you in here playing Madden. But that's the type of stress, right? That New York media and playing quarterback in the NFL kind of puts on you. So Zach Wilson, you could see how kind of the pressure of it is getting to him. I've heard little different things from reports from the receivers that they just truly hate him. Some of the things his mom was saying with how the pressure of it has kind of gotten to him a lot. So definitely for him, change of scenery is needed, especially when you have players that are praying over a bonfire because they want this other quarterback. It's like anybody but Zach Wilson. Right. It feels like they're to that point. So I think he's in a tough situation and probably needs a fresh start. If anybody needs a fresh start, we talked about Trey Lance needing maybe change the scenery to give him the best opportunity. Nobody needs it more than Zach Wilson, though.
No question. He's got to be dealt. Gammon Brown says, "Crikey, a Croc sighting." We're glad to have Croc with us here on the Krug Show. The NFL draft is coming up. We're about a month away. And I don't know how deep you and Peacock get into the draft. I know you guys were doing a thing where you're kind of looking at mock drafts and
Yeah.
evaluating the guys that people are mocking to the Niners, which is kind of a cool thing. I'm sure you guys are having fun. What's do you have a quarterback that you like in this draft that's going in round one? Give me a quarterback that you like in the draft of the top guys. Give me a quarterback that you think would be a great 49er ad in the third round or later, because that's obviously where they pick. What do you think of this class?
So there's a guy I really like from a talent standpoint, and then there's a guy I feel like, man, Kyle would kind of like this guy. All right, so I'll start with the guy I think Kyle would really like, and that's Sam Hartman, quarterback out of Wake Forest. I
Yeah,
just think he kind of reminds me of like that stature of a Brock Purdy, a Nick Mullins, just the way he plays the game, has a little spontaneous to his game a little bit. But, watching him, especially against Clemson, I mean, that was really fun. Watch there where you see him just the competitor that he was, the way he was competing in that game, making, whatever type of throw. He probably ended up with 400 passing yards and 5 or 6 touchdowns. It was pretty a really fun game to watch from Sam Hartman. But I think that continued throughout the year where you'd see this certain level where he might not be considered, one of the top 5, 6 quarterbacks in this class, but he's clearly somebody that has a type of ability where you identify him as maybe a long-term backup in the NFL, right?
he's not
So,
coming. By the way, he's not coming out.
oh, he's not coming out. He stayed in.
No, no, he transferred to Notre Dame.
Really?
Yeah, he left Wake because he put up fat numbers for Wake.
Okay. See, you see, I'm out
But
the loop.
he
I didn't even know that. Well, he would
he
have been
tra-
one.
yeah, he transferred to Notre Dame because I'm like, why is he not on this list? And I'm like, so I just Googled him and I realized he transferred to Notre Dame. So he's going to try to play one more year for the Irish.
Okay, well that's good for him then. That is good. All right, so okay, well then we'll just go with the guy that I really like then. All right, Sam Hartman. We'll wait for him next year, which maybe similar to Brock Purdy, right? Brock Purdy. I think Purdy was a guy that people liked much higher come after his junior year than they did even after his senior year.
Yeah.
So most people that you talk to, if you talk to them about Brock Purdy, they'd say, "Man, this was a guy that was probably going to be a day 2 pick or something as a quarterback junior year." He stayed, maybe thinking like, "Man, I could elevate my draft stock," and it kind of went the other way. All right, but the quarterback I think just has a ton of talent, but the team that he was on, they end up having a good running back, Zach Charbonnet. All right, so you know where I'm going here, man.
Yeah.
UCLA, DTR, Dorian Thompson Robinson. He has so much talent, so much ability. And we look at a guy like, Sam Darnold. And I feel like they kind of the way the ball comes out the hand, it's very similar. You talk about playmaking ability, man. I mean, there's twitched up, making guys miss, runs in the 4.5s. He's a supreme athlete. But even before that, he has a really good arm. Matter of fact, at the combine, DTR had the fastest miles per hour throw. It was like 62 miles an hour. It was faster
Did
than
he?
everybody
I
else.
didn't.
Yeah, at
Wow.
the combine. So he's not the biggest of guys. He's kind of slightly built, but you talk about a guy with just high upside ability and like, hey, dude, you can come over here. You do not have to play right now. You don't have to play. Just go ahead, like just learn, sit, and I think that's going to be really good for his development. Coming from Chip Kelly, I thought the last year, my guy Greg Pinelli talked about his quarterback coach that he had this last year really improved him from a mechanical standpoint. So we saw a huge jump as a passer from him. I think there's even another level to him. And he's a guy started a bunch of games, started for a bunch of years. I think he played 5 years in college because of the COVID year. So he has a ton of experience. Starting to learn that veteran leadership. He got that dog in him. DTR, man, he's a guy that I really, really like.
Yeah, no, Bishop Gorman in Vegas. I mean, and you're right. He's played a ton of football. And like if you saw him throughout his career, it's like when he's in rhythm, he's just playing. He's like he looks like the best player in the country. And then
Yeah,
as you like when you watched him every year, he would get into rhythm from larger portions of games and for bigger
yeah.
stretches. And I saw him a couple times this year where I thought, this looks like the most unstoppable offense in all of college football. I mean, you can't stop him in short yardage. He's too accurate. He's too fast. Charbonnet is 230 and, incredible. The tight end was good there. They had some talent around him. But, man, Chip Kelly this year, that offense under DTR looked really good. What round do you think he goes in? Where do you think
If
you could get him?
it feels like a fifth round pick. Feels like fifth round. But man, he just has so much talent. I feel like he should go higher, but I think it was just so much up and down. So because it's just the inconsistency, I think in his game, even late in the year, he throws some weird interceptions at different times. I think he's probably gonna be like a day three type guy, but he has
Yeah.
the ability of a high day two guy. But we just don't see that consistency.
Yeah. No, I love DTR as well. He's a playmaker, and he's actually, 6'2". Yeah, he is a little slight, but you know what? He's not weak. He's got good strength. Couple questions. I haven't talked to you, so give me your rundown on Javon Hargrave. Obviously, that was the biggest addition of the offseason. I loved it, man, because after I saw Kinlaw getting bounced around against the Eagles, I went into that game, Croc, thinking offensive tackle is going to be their number one need. If it's not offensive tackle, it's corner. But after that game, man, I emerged with they gotta get a big time pass rusher, run stuffer, impact, command a double team kind of a guy on their front four to go with Bosa. They've lost a lot the last few years with Buckner and D Ford, and Kinlaw just whatever you want to say about Kinlaw didn't happen. D Ford moved on, but I love Hargrave in that addition. What did you think of it? What do you how does that change the Niner D?
I mean, I think he does a lot of what they probably wanted from Javon Kinlaw. Remember, a lot of people forget this. Kinlaw was actually kind of grading out as a really good pass rusher at South Carolina from a defensive tackle standpoint. Now, you weren't going to confuse him for DeForest Buckner, but just as a pass rusher coming out of college, like he was pretty good there. He just needed more pass rush move, more of a plan because he played a little bit more bully ball. It feels like maybe that part never transpired. Now, the bigger issue to me is just be good at something, right? Like be good at one thing. And his biggest issue is he's not good at that one thing. Like there's not that one thing where you can say, you know what, Javon Kinlaw can hang his hat on being this all the time, right? Maybe you think, you know what, hey man, just be a two down run stopping guy and we'll get somebody else in there to be a pass rusher. Well, then you watch the Philadelphia Eagles game and get him pushed, see him get pushed 10 yards down the line of scrimmage, all right? So you have to go a different way. I still would love to see them get a little bit bigger in the middle there. And I mean like just this big immovable guy that can only play two downs in a row, right? Like this is that big run stuffing guy who can truly take on doubles. I don't think they want to build their defense that way. I think they want these penetrating guys, penetrating pass rush type guys. And I think that's where Hargraves comes in. He's a legit penetrating pass rusher type guy that gives you that speed, the power, being able to bull rush guys down. He give you that one arm stab and push guys back, man. It looks really good. And generating that pass rush right up the gut into the quarterback's face. I mean, that's what you want right there because it's going to move them off of their spot. And if you move a quarterback off of their spot because of Hargraves, well, you know who's coming now. You got Nick Bosa. So regardless of who else is on that defensive line, one guy doing his job pushing the quarterback and pushing into a quarterback's lap, Bosa going to come and clean it up. That's what you want to see. So, bringing him with Armstead, who's also a good run stopper. I like what they've done with the signing of him. I think it's going to make a tremendous difference and really just help not just the D line, but it helps all levels, man. It helps those backers and maybe keep them a little clean and they can penetrate. And then obviously with less time to throw, it really help the guys on the back end.
No doubt. It's a rush and cover game up front in the NFL, and you got in that order. You got to be able to rush, you got to be able to cover, but you really got to be able to rush. If you can't rush, there's almost no way. You could have Dion on both sides. You're probably not going to be able to cover.
Right.
Hargrave is obviously a huge addition, but Cleveland Farrell and Austin Bryant, I don't think are in the same class as Ebukam, Omenihu, or Jordan Willis. Is there an edge rusher in this draft that you got your eye on?
Oh man, I see. Edge rush is a tough one because when you pick as late as the 49ers do, you typically don't have the opportunity to get the high end guys that are going to come in and make an immediate impact. They're just guys are going to have some type of issues. So Peacock and I, we've been watching some of these guys that have been mocked to the 49ers, and we watched a kid out of he plays with Iowa State, defensive end number 3. And their defense is, and I
McDonald,
apologize for
Will McDonald the
not
fourth.
Will McDonald. He
Oh,
has a
not Will
teammate number
McDonald.
3. So Will McDonald, I believe, is number 9. He's going to go higher, but he
Yeah.
has a teammate number 3. Can't think of his name right now.
Okay.
He's number 3 on that defensive line. and he's a little bit wider, like 6'2", 270 pounds or so.
Right? You
But
like him.
he's someone that looks to be kind of what the 49ers really like. And he's not like this small, speedy edge rusher, but he's a guy that's stout at the point of attack. And the 49ers, they run a lot of quarters. And you like to see them, or you see them like to put like a big end out there. You see Armstead play on that big end because when you're running quarters, you have one less guy in the box. So you need to be more stout against the run with someone bigger on the edge to kind of set that edge in the run game. And I think he's a guy. I'm blanking on his name right now, but he's a guy that can do that.
There's a lot of them. I like Tyrus Wheat out of Mississippi State as far as a day 3 guy. I think he's going to be something else. But Jose Ramirez from Eastern Michigan, I like him quite a bit. There's a bunch of guys that are strong. The Niners haven't had a big time shutdown, rangy, big bodied corner who could dominate in a long time. I think of they went to the Super Bowl. They had Carlos Rogers and Chris Culliver. They were both had good size, but they didn't. And I'm talking about like a J.C. Horn type. They haven't had a true dominating big corner since Dion. Is that I kind of like Julius Brents out of K-State. I did pregame for Stanford for years, so I'm kind of a fan of Caillou Blue Kelly, Manuel Forbes from Mississippi State, Deontay Banks from Maryland, two of my favorites, Cam Smith. There's a number of guys in this draft that I think are interesting. Darius Rush, Terrell Smith, Jacorian
How did
Bennett.
Brents run?
Banks from
No, Brents.
Brents. I thought he ran pretty well. I can look it up. Let me see.
Yeah, see, because so that's going to be the big thing for him.
He's a 6'3" corner.
So he's huge, and I was down there at this, in Mobile for the Senior Bowl, and I'm watching him, and I did not realize how big he is, and that's a good thing. If I look and say, "Oh man, this guy, he's just a really big guy," right?
4.53 was the combine number with a 1.57 10-yard split, but he also has great explosive lower half. 41.5-inch vert, 11.6 broad, 6.63 3-cone. So, he's got some pretty good numbers there.
Yeah, you run 4.53 at pretty much 6'4". That's good. I'll take that because your length is going to cover up that extra millisecond that you need to cover guys vertically. It was really fun kind of watching him at the Senior Bowl. I just thought for a guy, and I'm watching him, and I see him, read down the guy extremely well. I talked about time clock earlier for quarterbacks, right? And Sam Darnold, maybe his internal clock being sped up. With defensive backs, your clock can get sped up as well. Like if you get beat off the line of scrimmage right now, your clock speeds up, and you kind of go in this sense of panic. And you watch him, he was always very under control, feet before hands, which is rare, especially for a big guy. The big guys, they always want to be so physical at the line of scrimmage. But he was feet before hands. He was patient. He read the receiver down. You could kind of see him have that kind of half man turn in his man coverage. And then when the receiver sat his route down, he sit it down and make a play on the ball. At no point did I think like, oh, this guy is 6'4". So that showed that he had like the necessary twitch, and he kind of reminds me of a guy, Benjamin St. Juste, that came out a few years ago. He was drafted
Minnesota.
by Washington. Yep, out of Minnesota. Yeah. But he was similar in the sense of like under control, smooth, physical guy. Liked the way he played, and Brent's kind of reminds me a lot of him, which I think is a good football player. That's a guy that can he can eventually be a starter in the NFL.
Who do you like the Niner corners? Lenore, Ambry Thomas, Womack. Obviously, Charvarius had a terrific year. But what do you think of the young guys? Even Quantrez. I had a chance to talk to Quantrez at a UCLA. He's a true alpha. He's an alpha guy in the room. I don't know if he's a free safety or a nickel or an outside corner. But what do you think of the Niner young corners? Because to me, it's been very bizarre. Lenore looked good. Then Lenore had a rough rest of his rookie year. Then Thomas came on. He looked terrible in camp the year before. Then this year, Thomas was like, it was like he had reverted back to the year before, but Lenore had improved. I liked Womack early in the year, but then he didn't play a lot late in the year. What do you think of those three young corners the Niners have?
So let's start with Travarius Ward, because that's the big dog. And for the first time, I watched the 49ers use a defensive back and say, we are going to utilize you to shadow guys. And we just don't see that. So you watch him in a lot of games. Drake London, wherever Drake London went, you'd see Trevarius Ward go. Now, I think he had kind of like tweaked something in that game. So you kind of saw him, then he was gone, then you saw him again. Then I think the next game he was kind of banged up playing against Kansas City. But I think they need to utilize him more at the line of scrimmage. I don't think he necessarily has the turn and run that you ideally would like, which again, transitioning into a run from off coverage for these guys, for guys that are bigger, is typically a little bit more difficult for them sometimes. Those guys with the longer legs, that transition is just a little bit harder. And it definitely was for Trevarius Ward. So use him more at the line of scrimmage. I think that physicality showed that against DK Metcalf and several other receivers. That's where he's going to make his money. As far as the other guys, the younger guys, I think that they are likely not guys I would go into the season saying you are going to be my starting corner. I would see if I can upgrade, but if I have to start Diamador Lenore, I think I'm okay with that. He's scrappy. We saw him finish the season extremely strong. He has that versatility. He played a lot in the slot early in the season as well. So a guy that could play inside, play outside, I think he's kind of really just getting started. But again, from what we've seen so far, and there were some things that were a little worrisome down the stretch against Washington, getting bombed on a couple times, against the Raiders, kind of giving up some plays. In the NFL, you're going to give up plays, but I think ideally you would see if you can upgrade from that. And if you can't, then all right, let's rock Diamador Lenore, just like prove us all wrong. But I would look for a guy, maybe Elias Ricks out of Alabama, a taller guy. I think for him, people are going to look at the analytics on his height, weight, and then his testing numbers. They weren't good. Shuttle, terrible. Vertical jump, really whatever. There was nothing that really jumped out, and which was very weird for a guy who is a big-time five-star prospect, coming out of college, going to LSU, played very well there, goes to Alabama. He had to come off the bench for various reasons. I don't know why. I watched him. I was doing a film study on him the other day. I thought he played with the mindset that you would like, but when you see that testing, I think that's something that's going to likely drop him. And a lot of people think like, oh, there's no way he goes in the third round. After testing the way he did, I think that it's a very strong possibility. And if you can just learn to kind of work around his deficiencies from an athletic standpoint, which I think he's athletic enough, I think he can be a solid corner.
Give me the number one need of the 49ers going into the draft in your mind.
Right tackle.
Right tackle.
Is right tackle.
You don't believe in McKivitz as a starter?
No.
Okay.
Now, that's not to say that look, we've seen Kyle play with, gosh, who is that dude's name?
Tom Compton.
No, not even Tom Compton. I'm going back even a little bit further.
Brunskill. I mean,
2017, Zane Beatles, was that his name?
Yeah, Zane Beatles. Yeah.
I mean, we've seen Kyle roll some guys out there where it's like, man, you got to play with him and have a serviceable offensive line. So if anybody can maybe hide it, maybe it's Kyle. But again, still a little bit less than ideal. And you want somebody to hold it down. For all the flack that McGlinchey took, I think he was a guy that he was fairly consistent as a football player. Now, consistent in other areas too. He's going to get thrown to the ground once or twice a game. He's going to miss a block once or so a game. But outside of that, he was a guy that played fairly well in the run game and in the pass game as well, outside of those few really, really ugly plays that were going to stick out to a lot of people. So I think losing him, I think that's going to be kind of big. I think that's going to be a bigger miss than some people think. And then missing Daniel Brunskill as well. He was a guy that could fill in at all five positions, and now you don't have him. He's a guy, I remember when Joe Staley retired, and I was like, oh, they're fine, man. They got Daniel Brunskill to fill in that left tackle, right? Because he had filled in earlier that year extremely well. And obviously you're going to get the best left tackle ever. But Daniel Brunskill, man, a versatile piece. You're going to really miss him, a guy that can fill in at any time. He rotated a lot last year with Spencer Burford, so at right guard. But we saw him play center. We saw him play both tackle spots. He's a guy that would be big-time missed.
We're going to let you go, man. Awesome stuff. Hey, who are your position coaches in the NFL? Who were the guys that coached you?
Tim McDonald and Dennis Thurman.
Wow. So you had the former Cowboy Dennis Thurman, and you had the former Niner T Mac.
Yeah, yeah. And Dennis Thurman, which I didn't know who Dennis Thurman was, Coach DT, and he said first my workout. So I knew who Coach Tim McDonald was,
Sure.
and I had my workout. They flew me
Show me
in,
the money, right? From
right?
he was part of of Jerry Maguire.
Yeah, show me the money. So they fly me in for my workout, and I'm going through it. I'm like, oh man, that's Tim McDonald, man. I knew immediately who he was, big dude. And then there's Dennis Thurman, and I didn't know who Dennis Thurman was, but he was the one that was talking the most. He was kind of putting me through different drills, and they also had a guy, Coach Smith, who's now he might still be the defensive coordinator for Rice, but Coach Smith, he was like the assistant. He was like the cornerbacks coach / assistant DB coach. But he had played with the 49ers. He had played safety with the Niners during like the Lance Schulter's years and stuff like that. But Coach Dennis Thurman,
That's a
man,
name from the past, man. I love from Hofstra. Lance
yeah,
Schulters
yeah,
loved to stick people, man.
yeah. So working me out, man. I remember Coach Dennis Thurman. He was like, man, I'm like, man, I can keep going, man. I want to keep going because I didn't think I did enough to get signed. He was like, nah, we've seen enough. I'm like, nah. He was like, no, what you need to do is do some calf raises for those skinny ass legs and get in shape, like, cause you out of shape. And I'm like, dang. But he was kind of a jokester, and I remember saying, hey, coach, man, you play for the Cowboys? And he was like, who asked you? Your dad? I'm like, no. I'm like, he was like, who asked you? Your dad? He probably wanted to be me. And I'm like, no, it wasn't my dad. It was one of my coaches from junior college. He was like, well, he probably wanted to be me too. So like Dennis Thurman definitely wasn't shy of confidence. And I think between Rex Ryan, who was obviously the head coach then, he had a lot of confidence as well. And I think his coaching staff reflected that. Dennis Thurman, he's coaching with Deion Sanders now. He was with them in Jackson State. Now he's with them in Colorado.
I was wondering because there was a guy I worked with in the Canadian League. His name was Wild Bill Bradley, and he coached with the Jets, but it was before you got there. He was a great defensive back with the Eagles in the 70s, but I coached with him in the Canadian League, and then he moved on to the Jets. I was looking up the years, and your year and his year, he was probably there 6, 7, 8 years before you ever got there.
Yeah.
Wild Bill Bradley. That Niner guy says, hey fellas, I think the big question, if the Niners trade Trey, what could they get? That's the tricky part to me, because I think at most it's a second round pick.
I think a third.
What do you think,
I think at
Ron?
most it's a third. I think you would like to get a second. I think the 49ers would, if you told them right now, hey man, you could trade Trey Lance, you can get a second, they might just do it. They probably pull the trigger on that. But I think at most it's a third. And I think you're more likely to get like something that's more conditional.
Yeah, I was hoping they could get. I mean, I'm looking at the teams, the quarterbacks in this draft, and I think 4 or 5 of them are going in the top 10. And then you say, was Trey Lance better than Hendon Hooker? I think he probably is. Is he better than Tanner McKee? I mean, I think a lot of people would say so. So I don't know. I mean, I kind of think that he may get a higher pick just because of, I think he's better than the quarterbacks outside of the top 10. So what if you pick 28th and you want a quarterback? Are you going to go with Hendon Hooker, or are you going to trade that pick to the Niners maybe for Trey Lance? I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm dreaming on that, but I think Lance has more upside than Hendon Hooker.
Hendon Hooker, there's a chance that he's older than Trey Lance. We can kind of look that up.
He is.
But is he?
Yeah, he's 25.
Yeah, see, Trey Lance is 22 years old. So, I mean, how wild is that, right? Where Trey Lance has been in the league 2 years, and he's still 3 years younger than Hendon Hooker.
Last one on the super chats. Impulsive, of the quarterbacks in this draft, Trey Lance is better than, I would say, everybody outside of the top guys. I really still kind of believe in Trey, even though the Niners, I'm not sure, do. Who was the toughest cover you ever had, either in practice, in college, or the pros? Who was somebody that you're looking at him and you're like, dang, and I cannot mirror this guy down the field?
So there was one, man, and it was really weird because I couldn't figure out. I'm like, man, how is this guy beating me? He's not faster than me. He's not. But man, Stevie Johnson. Johnson.
Buffalo. San Francisco.
Yeah, so Stevie Johnson, and we would train together sometimes, and we do one-on-ones, and it was weird. He wasn't like faster than me, so I was never like in a state of panic. But it was like no matter what I did, he always had a counter for it. Always, every single time. So if I tried to quick jam, then he would do this right now. If I was more patient, then he would do this. And if I stuck, one hand out, took one hand away, he'd just catch it with one hand. Like every single thing that I did, he had a counter for it 99% of the time. And that was probably the most frustrating. There have been other guys where I felt like were maybe tougher in the sense of kind of putting me in more of a sense of panic. In practice, guys like Braden Edwards, he was at like the end of his career, so like that wasn't hard. Like Stephen Hill was fast, but he didn't really play at that speed, so I wasn't like quite worried about that. But like there's been other guys like my guy like DJ Stevens. I went to college with him. I played in the Arena League with him. Like he was extremely difficult to guard. Well, my cousin Armand Lewis, he spent time with Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He ran like 4.3. He was extremely difficult because he was just so fast, and it just sped up your clock right now. It's like any bad step. And there's a lot of guys like that, and I know you can attest to that, scouting in the CFL and stuff, where there's all these guys that have so much talent, and you would think like, man, how is this guy not in the NFL? And it's just really weird the way opportunities work at that level.
No question. The one thing I'll say, if you're a receiver or a corner and you want to develop, go to the CFL, because the reps that you get there were, you just can't replace those reps. I mean, you get a ton of reps. You want
think about it like this, Brock Purdy, right? We all see what Brock Purdy did. He was last pick in the draft, Mr. Irrelevant. If Trey and then Jimmy never get hurt, well, you never get an opportunity to see Brock Purdy. Then what happens? He's just this guy that you see in preseason sometimes, does well, maybe gets released, goes to another team, probably plays in the preseason a little bit. Then a couple years down the line, it's like, oh, he's in the CFL. But it's like, well, he always had the ability to play at the NFL level, but he just quite didn't get that opportunity. And that's how it is for a lot of guys that have a lot of ability, but, man, they just can't. They don't get that true opportunity. My guy Isaiah Hodgins, man. I watched Isaiah Hodgins at Oregon State.
He was big time. He's right from here.
Yeah. So he would train with us in Stockton sometimes. And so I've known him, since he was in high school, and I watched him. I just continued to watch him, and didn't have an opportunity with the Bills. And they're probably thinking like, oh, okay, whatever. Have 4 career catches with them. And partly was because everybody was hurt, so he had to play in the game last year. Got 4 catches. Well, he goes to the New York Giants after the Bills thought they would release him and he'd be able to return back to practice squad. Giants claimed him, and
he was great.
Playoff game, he has 100 yards, touchdown. He's catching touchdowns left and right. And it's like, well, where's this guy been? Well, he's been sitting on somebody's practice squad. He just needed an opportunity.
Yeah. Oh, there's all kinds of guys that can flat out play, that don't get opportunities, and Hodgins is one of them. He doesn't run the greatest 40 time, but the ball skills are second to none, and he showed it. Now he's going to make some money. He's going to get the bag in the league. Hey, we'll let you go, but you played and won a championship with the San Jose SaberCats.
I did.
And was that our bet?
Yes, it was. And he just won a game. They got like a new little league. He's coaching
one of my buddies.
the Bay Panthers.
I'm a Darren Arbet. I'm a Sac State guy, so I'm a big Darren Arbet guy.
I'll tell you about Arbet, man. Coach Arbet. Let me not be disrespectful. Coach Arbet. So he's from Stockton. I'm from Stockton. He's from Stockton. He definitely knows how to play mind games. I never learned so much about what it meant to be a champion from the way that you prepared, like from everything. Than that year with the San Jose SaberCats. Everything that we did was to the standard of being a champion. And I mean everything. From the way we did walkthroughs, from the way we practiced, the way after every single snap, you had to turn and run 10 yards to where you'd be in much better shape come game time. I mean, we kicked everybody's butt throughout that year. And it was because of how Coach Arbet had us preparing throughout that year. And the mind games that he played with us on the back end as defensive backs. The mind games he played with me when I was out there trying to run around on the high ankle sprained, fractured ankle. But Arbet's one of a kind, man, and he's a special kind of coach. And I always appreciate that time that I had with him because I learned a lot about myself and what it truly meant to be successful.
I love that league, the Arena League, because it puts you in the mindset that you should score on every play. And that's a great mindset to be in if you're an offensive player or offensive staff. We're thinking score. We're thinking aggressive. So I always enjoyed, the kind of the mentality of the Arena League player. Fish and Chips drops one more here. He says Tay Martin is that guy for the Niners. I'm a huge fan of the man they call Big Play Tay, and he started at Wazoo and he went to Oak State. Joey says, is Tay Martin related to T Martin? No, no relation there. But what have you seen Tay
T Martin
Martin?
is related to Amari Rogers, though. Amari Rogers is
Yeah,
T Martin's son.
yeah. Amari Rogers, who played at Clemson, who went to Green Bay. But Tay Martin is a Niner receiver who was in camp this year and was on the practice squad. And I'll tell you, Eric, this guy runs routes. He's got hands. He's 6'3". He didn't lift at the combine because he doesn't have a lot of upper body strength. So I mean, you can jam him at the line a little bit, but he's going to get stronger this year. He did get stronger. Watch for Tay Martin in camp next year. He is, I think, going to be a red zone threat because he's got great ball skills and he's 6'3" with, really good receiving capability. The guy lit it up at the end of his final year at Oak State and then lit up Notre Dame in the bowl game for like 109 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was totally unstoppable.
Yeah.
Never saw the field with the Niners, of course, but and God knows they got deep wide receiver core. But Tay Martin, I don't know what you think of him or if you've seen him, but watch for him next year.
You know who he reminds me a lot of, and I'm pretty sure this
Who's
is
that?
a very familiar name for a lot of 49er fans, but Kendrick Bourne. He reminds me so much of Kendrick Bourne.
Good height, good ball skills.
I thought Bourne was a little better in and out of his breaks, but just in the sense of their play style, it's very similar there. I saw a lot of similarities when I was watching Martin's film.
Hey, man, love your stuff, and congratulations on taking down Grant in the media contest. A lot of people...
yeah, that was a fun little,
What'd you think of that?
It was a fun little exercise, man. To me, it just showed that, because at first I didn't care about it. It was just like, okay, what's this? And then as you kind of keep going, it's like, hey, this is kind of cool. That people just, they value some of the things that I put out there, the content I put out there. And, I mean, you've been doing it. I used to listen to you on the Krueger and Brooks show, you spend so much time, doing this stuff, and, you do it because you want to be of some value to people. And to me, that just showed like, hey, maybe not all, but there are a lot of people that, just like to listen to me talk about football. So to me, that was the coolest thing about that.
Yeah, no, seriously, man. Down to earth, and I love your thing with Peacock. You guys got a great rhythm going. If there's anything you want to promote, go ahead. What do you got going on the rest of the week?
Yeah, I'm
actually.
Go
every day? You guys go 5 days a week, 7 days a week?
5 days a week, man. 5 days a week, locked on 49ers, myself, Brian Peacock. As soon as you wake up, you should be able to see that in your feed. It's been amazing since Peacock brought me on over a year ago now.
Now, what was your
been
old
really
show?
cool.
Because I've had people tell me, man, I love Croc's old show too. What show?
Oh, so I had the morning show. So the morning show was something that was an accident. All right. I just went live one morning and a lot of people tuned in. And then I'm like, you guys want me to go live again? They were like, yeah, go live again. So I went live again. And that was something that I'd always do, especially when I had the time. But it's just, I own a gym. So my time in the mornings and things, it started to get a little weird. So I'm trying to figure out a structure to where I can be more consistent with an exact time for everyone, that we can do it, because it's cool. It's like a call-in show. I felt like it was something for the people in the morning. They're going to work, but they call in and, they're mad about something. It's a pretty good setup. So I got to figure out a way to do it, but do it to where I can be much more consistent with it. So hang in there, guys. We're going to bring it back. That's for sure.
People said they missed your morning show. Hey, man, I enjoy your content and keep it rolling. We'd love to have you back anytime. And we'll chop it up and talk Niners. You're a real easy guy to talk to, and I think that's probably the secret to your success. But keep it rolling, man, and thanks for stopping by on the Krug Show. I really do appreciate your time and your really everything you bring to it. The cool thing about the content creator world is that everybody's got a different kind of flavor to it. we're all kind of talking about the same thing, but we're kind of doing it different ways and different angles. And it's just, I think the fan wins out, man. I really do. So keep it
Yeah.
rolling, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
There you go. Eric Crocker. And check out, Crocker and Peacock on the 49ers show, on Locked On 49ers. And you can see why he took down Grant, because his content is really, really good. And he's just an easy guy to talk to. Tom Pierce says, like and subscribe. WTF, 16,000 is so close. That's right. We're getting close to 16,000 subs. All right. We'd like to thank our title sponsor of the Krug Show, and that is Pig in a Pickle. Check them out. They are in Corte Madera, open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. That's right. 7 days a week in Corte Madera. They're open Wednesday through Sunday in Emeryville, inside the Emeryville Public Marketplace. If you're walking through that mall in Marin, it's an outside mall there in Corte Madera, and you're saying, what does it look like? What is a Pig in a Pickle? How am I going to find it? There's a lot of different spots. It looks like this.
So New York style sausage was started over 70 years ago. We are the largest producer of fresh Italian sausage on the West Coast.
What makes our sausage in New York style is really the recipe came from back east, from New York, from Connecticut.
If you look at all of our labels, there's maximum 4 or 5 ingredients, which we're really proud of.
There's no preservatives, no MSG, fresh in, fresh out.
The pork comes in fresh, goes out fresh. There's never any freezing throughout the process. We've always used fine quality cuts. We're never gonna deter from that. It's one of the reasons why our sausage is so good. I guarantee you put our sausage up against anybody else's from a flavor standpoint, no one will beat it, hands down.
And do yourself a favor and do me a favor. Go buy a package of the New York style Italian sausage. Guaranteed you will love it, guaranteed.
Welcome back to the Krug Show. A data 84. Is that what it says? He says Pasquale. Paul Perriman. Larry's head is a sausage. Thank you. I really appreciate that, Paul. Somewhere my parents will be proud. Kyle says, Larry going to break the world record for the longest day streaming about the 49ers in one day. Well, you know what? I've been trying to get Croc on the show, and I gave him a bunch of times, and he said he could come on tonight. And I was like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's just do it. Yeah, busy day today on the Krug Show. We started off with FP Santangelo stopping by this morning, talking Giants baseball. We had Jordan Elliott this afternoon talking Niners. Thing blew up, had a huge live stream there. Then we jumped over to Vish's channel, and Vish blew it up for a couple hours. And then we had Croc on, and it's all good stuff. Now it's 10:28. People saying, well, hey, you're not doing Warrior post game tonight. Yeah, not tonight. Not tonight. I'll be back Friday night, though, after the Spurs game. I was planning on doing post-game tonight, but once Croc said he was going to join me, I'm like, you know what? I won't try to mesh everything and do everything. I want to talk Niners. And so there you go. Tomorrow on the channel, we're going to do a number of things. We've got a number of things cooking tomorrow on the channel. We're going to be doing some videos in the morning, some draft videos. We're going to be doing a live stream in the middle of the day on the Niners, and I can't tell you who the guest is just yet. Wayne Breezy at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm going to be on Breezy's channel. So I'm looking forward to that. Wayne Breezy and me on Wayne's channel tomorrow at 2. And then Jesse Naylor. I'm going to be on Jesse's channel. Jesse's been on my channel a bunch. I've never been on his. So tomorrow night at 7:30, I'll be on the Jesse Naylor extravaganza. It's going to be 10:30 Eastern. So we'll see if Jesse's fading at that point. But 7:30 tomorrow night Pacific on Jesse Naylor's channel, 2 p.m. Pacific tomorrow, 5 in the East on Wayne Breezy's channel. I think Breezy's coming out of Connecticut. So it'll be 5 o'clock Eastern, but 2 o'clock. And then we'll do something in the middle of the day as well. We'll do a little live stream tomorrow in the middle of the day. Thursday, Vish joins me on my channel. And Thursday's baseball opening day. The Giants play the Yankees at Yankee Stadium at 10 a.m. And at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I will be doing post-game Giants-Yankees on the opener, talking baseball with Ned Colletti. Ned's going to join me for Giants opening day post-game. So check me out Thursday for that. And then Friday, we'll come on after Spurs Warriors and do a little post-game live stream. Saturday, I'm going to give to my kids. I think we're going to go watch baseball. My kids' games are getting rained out left and right. Is it ever going to stop raining in the Bay Area? My goodness, I went to spring training. It was raining before I left. Supposedly it rained the entire time we were in spring training, and it's rained ever since I got back. I can't stand this much rain. I know we need it, but I'm sick of it. I'm really getting sick of it. Anyway, Sunday at 9:30 in the morning, I'll be on Ryan Hensley's channel, chopping it up with Hensley at 9:30 on Sunday. So we got a lot going on the Krug Show. Thanks to Croc. Thanks to all of you. 1-starred chat from Scotch. He said, Krug, did Greg Papa slip up when he said Sam Darnold would be the starter? Is that the plan before Purdy comes back? Well, you know what? If he did slip up, then what do you say about Ian Rappaport? Because Rappaport suggested the exact same thing today on the NFL Network, that Sam Darnold and not Trey Lance would start the year. Now, I think Greg might be a big Sam Darnold fan. I kind of think Sam Darnold stinks, to be honest, but we'll see. We'll see. Maybe they caught lightning in a bottle. You never know. You never know. Maybe they found something there that maybe they got, who knows? Maybe the Niners lucked out and they're getting Sam Darnold on the uptick. You know, you just don't know. I'm hoping. We'll hit the chat one more time on our way out. What do we have? Oh, here we go. Paul Perriman, your video was in the middle with a sausage and your shoulders on the side. Easy, Paul. I think things going to be okay, bro. It's going to be all right. Adata 84. Warriors win. That's all you need to know. The car gods. Be cool to Larry, mofos. I like that. Somebody's got my back. The car gods. Kevin F says Kuminga got 30 plus minutes. Good. Play Kuminga. MF. Krug Show post-game Thursday after Giants? Damn straight. Me and Ned and you, MF, and others. Ned Colletti is going to be great on Thursday. We had a great live stream the other day with him, but we were on after Warrior basketball. Now he's going to get a chance to sit down in front of the TV, watch Giants and Yankees opener, and then just pop on afterwards and give us all the insights of a Major League Baseball executive. I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. The Car God says, great show, sir. Thank you, Car Gods. DJ Over the Top says, hey, Larry, you going to do more spots on 95.7 since Damon Bruce and Ratto are no longer there? Well, I won't be doing more spots because they're not there, but I will be doing more spots. I think I'm sitting in on Afternoon Drive with Willard coming up in 2 weeks. I'm not sure if it's for the whole week or just a couple shows, but I'll as soon as I get the dates, I will fire it off to you guys. But yeah, I went to spring training for a couple weeks, for a week with the kids and, all that. And then, obviously they had the big turnover there and, obviously nobody's been taking any time off. I just fill in there when they need me. And sounds like maybe Dibbs is taking a little time off in a few days coming up later on in April. So look for me on 95.7 The Game with the great Mark Willard on 95.7. What else we got? Kevin F. Kuminga is why you shouldn't trade Lance. Maybe James Wiseman is why you shouldn't trade Lance. Matt Flores, super chat, says Trey's issue, overstated arm, speed, and processing. Yeah, I think that's well said, actually, Matt. I think his arm is not as good as what we thought. His speed is clearly not dynamic. As far as the processing part, I really couldn't speak to that. That's something only Shanahan and offensive coaches and the Niner players could speak to. I haven't seen enough of Trey. My guess is that's not the case, but it could be. It absolutely could be. Wouldn't be the first young quarterback who didn't process what he sees fast. Also, let's remind everybody, the jump from the FCS level to the NFL, monumental jump. Not everybody can do it. Kelch Chronicles, if Aaron Judge goes deep, I'm done. Get ready to be done. Let's not rip Trey. People are car gods ripping Trey. Paul Perriman, like. Thank you, Paul. MF, is Dan streaming in the Philippines? Oh yeah, people were asking before. Where's Danny? Where's Rye? Where's Danny? Where's Rye? Danny went on a trip to the Philippines, so I think he's going to be gone for like 8 to 10 days. And then when he comes back, you'll know it because he'll contact me. We'll get him back on the show. He wants to come on a lot. He's obviously got his own channel, but he's just starting that up. And we're going to help him. We're going to help him grow that channel. So he'll be on with us throughout the year, talking a lot of baseball. Danny's good at talking about the other sports, but he's really great at talking about baseball. So that's, we'll have him in his spot doing his thing a lot throughout this year. We're going to talk a lot of baseball this year. Kyle McKiernan, I can't believe Ned is sticking around for some shows. Tons of knowledge, and the shows are badass. Oh, yeah. Come on, man. Ned and I go way back. And we're lifelong friends. And he's helped me out tremendously, and he continues to, so I appreciate him greatly. Cheshire Cat, I think that's anecdotation. Okay. All right. Okay. Why do I even click on some of these things? I don't know. Frank Tom Ocean. Come on, everyone. Hit the likes. Yeah, hit like and subscribe. If you hit like, more people can find the show. If you hit subscribe, you will add to our subscriber base, and you'll get an alert every time we go live. And we have, to the second, 15,842 subs. So we're working our way to 16,000. We're on the verge of getting there. If you've yet to hit subscribe, please do, and you'll get an alert every time we go live. And then, of course, you can also be a channel member for $4.99 a month. Nick Money Meyer says, I'm here, Sports Larry K. I'm catching up with you and Vish show right now. Sam sucks. Oh, that he's quoting me. Sam Darnold sucks. I got it. Joey Nichols, Darnold does stink. LOL. The car gods, we know Trey's gone. We do know Trey Lance is gone. That's what the car god said. Paul Perriman. It's pretty cool that Coletti stays on when the others join. The non-Larrys. Yeah. Well, Ned's a cool guy. Ned's a very cool guy. DJ Over the Top. Larry's pickle was in the middle. MF. Ned. Fire. Sometimes my 13-year-old will say that to me. Dad, I watched your live stream. It was fire. Means good. Means it was good. Tom Pierce. Jordan Poole starting to look like playoff Poole. It's about freaking time. Kyle McKiernan. The Krug show can't be bad with Ned. Bruce, yeah, no, come on. If Ned's on, it's never a bad show. Bruce R says, are you doing any live draft shows April 27th, 28th, and 29th? Bruce, yes, we are. I'm thinking about streaming the entire freaking draft with guests and all of you. Video calls, content, breakdown, analysis. What do you think? 3 days? Can I do it? The first night goes from like 5 to 8, so it's about a 3-hour commitment. The second the second day is rounds 2 and 3. I think it goes like 4 to 8, something like that. It's about 4 hours. I think I could do that. It's that Saturday. Can I go Saturday? Saturday would be 9 a.m. I think it starts. And I think it goes to like 4. I don't know if I can go 9 to 4. I mean, seriously, I don't know if I can put in those kinds of hours, but I might try. Last year, when we were just getting the channel started, we started the channel in March. The draft is in April. We still had like 1,000 people in the room on day 2 of the draft. Or between rounds 2 and 3, I went live. We had like 980 people in the room. Now that we have, 16,000 subs almost, we might be able to get a couple thousand in the room. We'll make it like a Grant Cohn show. So maybe. Fishing, and then maybe I can get Corey, the Niner PR guy, to get us some of the Niner players to call in. That would be cool. Fish and Chips says, streaming like you're Scott Jurek. Google him. I don't know Scott Jurek. MF, what happened to Kevin Lynch from KMBR? I have no idea. What happened to Lynch. He had a great Balky impersonation. Here we go. Akshay. Am I pronouncing that right? Akshay? I'm ready to support whoever is going to be QB1. I hear you. Yaffee. Larry, who made the bigger mistake? The Jets drafting Zach Wilson or the Niners drafting Trey Lance? In the present, Zach Wilson has to be traded. Trey Lance doesn't have to be traded. Zach Wilson has to be traded. They both have different issues. You could park a Tahoe between BYU's offensive line and Zach Wilson. And the NFL is all about making plays inside of a muddy pocket. You don't get the kind of protection in the NFL that Zach Wilson enjoyed at BYU. So he's got to get used to operating the way Brock operates, with bodies flying all around him and all kinds of activity around him. He didn't have that at BYU. It's what he's got on a regular basis with the Jets. The Jets also have a bad offensive line, and they had young receivers. I actually think Zach Wilson is going to have the better career than Trey Lance, but I think they're both going to be good. I know that's hard to believe, but I think Zach Wilson finds himself and has another chapter, and I definitely know that Trey Lance is going to find himself. It may, I think both guys are probably going to have to move. What if they moved for each other? How about that? Joey Nichols, Larry, who's a bigger bum, Zach Wilson or Jim Druckenmiller? I got to go Druck. Did I ever tell you I went up to Druckenmiller when he was a rookie and the Niners had him? And, I'm like, hey, Jim, you got a couple minutes? Can we talk? He's like, dude, Walsh. Bill Walsh was working for the Niners at that time. Walsh is up my ass, dude. He wants to meet with me. He's told me to bring my playbook. I'm like, dude. I looked at Chris Townsend. He looked at me, and I'm like, dude, they're screwed. They're screwed. This guy's a moron. Total moron. They went from Montana to Young to this guy. Moron. And he bounced out of the league. When they drafted Druckenmiller, they showed the media video of him dragging a VW bus up a hill by his waist. I mean, it's just like, great. Can he play quarterback? And the answer was no. Tom Pierce. Need more Ned and need more Big Frank. You like Frank Red, huh? Yeah, Frank's solid, man. Frank is solid. We go back. No question. DJ Over the Top says, come on, 20K. I was trying to get to 20K by the draft. I don't know. It's been a little bit of a slow grind, but I'm hoping maybe by the end of draft weekend, we can get to 20K. We got about a month. We got about a month to pick up, 4,000 subs. It's a tall task. I don't know if it can be done, but if it can be done, I'll do it. Tom Pierce, like and subscribe. WTF, 16,000 is so close. All right. Fish and chips, 100 likes, not quite. DJ over the top. Tell your friends and family about Larry. Speak nicely of me. Speak kindly. L. Fox, Coletti as the GM for the Giants. Well, if it's going to happen, it's not going to happen until 2025. We got this one from Jose Pepe. Great show as always, Larry, from Orlando. Nick Money Meyer, I'm watching on my phone live with you and TV with you and Vish. Look at you. Nick Money Meyer, blow it up. Val Ramos, love you, Larry. Keep grinding. Krug, is that the camera Jesse has? Yeah, it is. You like the camera? It's a nice camera. Got a new camera, new mic. Upgrading. Stepping it up. Kevin F., your favorite, Draymond Green, willed the Warriors to a win tonight. Games like tonight is why Draymond has to be extended. He doesn't get up until March. Yeah, seriously, bro. Keep Draymond Green. Guess how many titles the Warriors would have won without Draymond Green? None. 0. I really believe that. L. Fox, more Krueger and FP. Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you liked it. 49er Josh Faithful says, if you stream the draft, I will be there. Count on it. Yeah, I mean, seriously, if I can somehow stream the draft, maybe get a couple real good draft guests on, maybe get a couple 49er draft picks to call in. Kyle, that was a great one from Kyle. Larry, you'll get divorced if you broadcast the entire draft. My wife knows what she's into with me at this point. I don't think she'd get rid of me, but who knows? You never know. MF, love the AJ Jenkins draft story when you said Balky picked his name out of a hat. I'm doing that show with Damon Bruce. We're in the Niner war room. We're in the conference room across from the Niner war room. Balky and Harbaugh walk in. Damon's a Big Ten honk, right? He went to Indiana. He watches a lot of Big Ten football. He had never heard of AJ Jenkins. I only had heard of him in passing. And you know how hardcore I am. And we said to, I said to Harbaugh, I think I asked Harbaugh first. I'm like, Jim, what do you like about AJ Jenkins? Hardly the tough question. And it was like I stumped him. He's like, well, yeah. Several things we really like about him. Yeah. Kid can run. Kid can really run. And, there's a lot of positive traits we like about him as a receiver. Yeah. I was like, what? Yeah, do you even know who you just drafted? He was like Harbaugh had never seen the guy before. And I believe to this day he probably never had. And then Balky, Damon's like, Trent, I mean, what did you see? I mean, nobody had this guy rated high. I mean, what did you guys see that other people didn't? He was starting to kind of get a little frustrated. And Balky goes to this ridiculous story. I had my eye on AJ Jenkins for a while, Larry and Damon, and I wrote his name down and I put it in an envelope. And I said to myself, if AJ Jenkins is there, we're not going to hesitate. We're just going to turn in the card. And sure enough, Larry and Damon, we got to pick 31. And man, AJ Jenkins was there. And we just turned in the card. It's like this big, stupid story about nothing. Absolutely nothing. He sucked. He was terrible. The guy couldn't catch a cold. I've dated girls who were stronger than AJ Jenkins. Unbelievable. I mean, come on. This elaborate bullshit story about some envelope. All this you patting yourself on the back like you're freaking Sonny Weaver from draft day. I put it in an envelope. I don't care if you put it in an envelope, inside of a box, inside of a car, inside of a safe. He sucked. It was a terrible pick. And you're the reason we made that pick. Max Thunder. I'd watch the Krug Show NFL Draft over ESPN and the NFL Network. Damn straight. I like that. Gabriel Lopez. You lazy, Larry. You lazy. LOL. All right. That does it. That is it. I am out of here. I don't care. Now, let me hit a couple more. Adata 84. Larry's draft takes on KMBR back in the day were legendary. I remember you hyping up Marcus Peters and Chris Jones before they were stars. Marcus Peters went right after Eric Armstead. His agent was my buddy, too, and I knew Peters was badass. Scott Fowler, Darius Rush out of South Carolina should be available when the Niners are on the board. Kid's a stud. Hopefully they pick him up. I'm with you, bro. Scott, you nailed that one. You absolutely nailed that one. Joey Nichols. Larry, you remember Richie Kotex was coaching the Jets? Who was worse, Rich Kotex or Mike Nolan? I think it was Kotite. Kotex is a reference to something else. Kotite. Definitely Mike Nolan was a better coach than Richie Kotite. Nick Moneymeyer. I got my number 5 jersey. Haven't even worn it. Tag still on it and all. To the Jets for Zach Wilson. I wouldn't do that straight up, but I would do it for Zach Wilson in a pick. And the people would lose their S. Oh, my God. Because to the general NFL fan, Zach Wilson is like already proven failure. So if they traded him for Zach Wilson, oh, my God, there would be so many people ripping Lynch, so many people ripping Shanahan. I wouldn't be one of them, but I can see the criticism coming. Clarsard said Larry's channel will grow during draft weekend. Yeah, in draft weekend, we're going off. I'll say this. I don't puff out my chest much. I really don't. But the one thing I do feel like my content's better than others is the draft. I do. And that's just because I devote so much freaking time to it. And I've got no life. It's my hobby. You know what I'm saying? So it's your hobby. It's your hobby. 49er Josh, Pecan and Love Larry. Or is that, what does it say? Pekai and Love Larry? Maybe Pecan. Got this one from J-Tan. Trent Baalke learned his lesson. Is only going for free agents like Christian Kirk or cast-off receiver Calvin Ridley. Actually, that was a great trade, getting Calvin Ridley. Fish and Chips, his terrible pick is an understatement. Yeah, that was bad. AJ Jenkins? God, they traded him for Jonathan Baldwin. I mean, it was like, can we seriously? I mean, has anybody watched any of these guys play? Maybe the worst draft pick of all time, though, was Trent Baalke taking Marcus Lattimore after Lattimore had like one of the most devastating college football injuries I've ever seen in my life. I mean, anybody with a brain knew that Marcus Lattimore was no longer going to have a pro football career. Everybody except for Trent fucking Baalke. I mean, come on, Trent Baalke. You didn't know that Marcus Lattimore wasn't going to be able to make it in the NFL? Did you not see the hit to his knee that took him out? I mean, sometimes I wonder about Trent Baalke. DJ Over the Top. Larry's research is second to none on Draft Insight. Thank you, bro. Righty Musich says Larry's the GOAT. If you'd said I was crap, I wouldn't have read it. All right, Joey Nichols. Ha Baalke. SMFH. Oh, my God. Nick Moneymeyer, you're giving Vish the politician talk about don't listen to what they say, watch what they do. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. How do I know when a politician's lying? When I see the lips moving. Quincy J. Krueger. I showed up late, missed most of the show. The best on YouTube. You can go back and check it out, bro. And last one, Last one from MF. He says, Balky's interview with Damon after Harbaugh was fired was legendary. I got to go back and hear that one. I bet you it was. And D. Bruce is getting into the YouTube game. We may collab. Just saying. Look for it. All right, that's going to do it for us. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to our sponsors. Join me tomorrow on the channel. We'll do a little Niners in the midday. We got Wayne Breezy on his channel at 2, Jesse Naylor on his channel at 7:30. Until then, we're out.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Careful, whatever you bring me, getting handled. I answer to no one, I don't need to hassle. Yeah, we ain't never fall back. Hold our ground where we at.